it comes to Marvel characters, Doctor Strange is one of the brightest around, but this doesn't mean he's infallible. And in fact, he may have made a mistake during Infinity War. We know he took a look at some possible futures, but is it possible there was one answer about how to defeat Thanos he just couldn't see? We'll tell you some reasons you might want to start doubting the final few words of Doctor Strange. Unlike most of the other heroes we saw during Avengers Infinity War, we had only gotten the chance to see Dr. Stephen Strange in a standalone movie and for a brief cameo during Thor Ragnarok. Now, we aren't saying Doctor Strange was a bad movie. As far as the box office is concerned, it even beat out the MCU classic Iron Man, and that's saying something. Its special effects were incredible, and it was a hit with many moviegoers. But one of the issues with the movie was that it had a ton to pack in during its feature-length runtime. First of all, we had to introduce audiences to the character of Doctor Strange. Next, they had to pack in the entire concept of mysticism and magic, which had been conspicuously absent from the MCU for the most part. Then, of course, we have the Time Stone, which allows time travel, something else which has been absent from the MCU. Both magic and time travel could have the potential to be overused and overpowered exceptionally quickly, so their introduction had to be done with the greatest of care. Of course, all of these elements are integral to the formation of the MCU and setting up Infinity War. Plus, they had to pack in an interesting storyline and a couple of bad guys. No big deal, right? Over the course of the movie, we watched Doctor Strange master the mystic arts, go into the forbidden section of the library, and dabble with exceptionally rare and potentially dangerous magical items. Over the course of the movie, we see Doctor Strange obtain a device known as the Eye of Agamotto, which allows the bear to travel through time. Of course, we know that the reason it can do this is because it contains the Time Stone, one of the Infinity Stones we hadn't seen in the MCU up until this point. As we mentioned, the fact that this item exists has huge ramifications for the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, and Doctor Strange fully understands the importance of not letting it fall into the wrong hands. Speaking of the wrong hands, this brings us into Avengers Infinity War, where the Mad Titan Thanos is taking down anyone in his path in his quest to obtain all of the Infinity Stones and wipe out half of all life in the universe. Naturally, Doctor Strange is all for preventing this and vows to do anything possible as long as it means Thanos doesn't get his hands on the Time Stone. He even explicitly tells Tony Stark that he would let him and Peter Parker die in order to protect it. Clearly, Doctor Strange hasn't become any more charming or easier to get along with than he was in his standalone movie, but then again, he isn't one for mincing words, and this statement shows how powerful his urge to protect the Time Stone is. At the end of Doctor Strange, he was able to utilize the Time Stone in order to defeat Dormammu and convince him to take his cronies and leave Earth alone. During Infinity War, he puts the Time Stone to work for him once more, this time checking out over 14 million possible futures to find out where he and his pals don't end up failing at their mission. Of course, he doesn't exactly have time to elaborate, because our heroes are kind of under a time crunch, but whatever Strange saw convinced him to hand over the Time Stone to Thanos in order to spare the life of Tony Stark. We know Strange is stubborn and not a very sentimental guy, so what gives? One answer is that whatever future Strange saw which involved their victory featured Tony Stark as a key player. It's possible what he saw led him to believe that Thanos obtaining the Time Stone was inevitable, and Tony was the answer to undoing the decimation which was going to happen whether Strange handed over the Time Stone or Thanos took it forcefully. At least this is an assumption that many people have been working under when it comes to making predictions for what'll happen during Avengers Endgame. In fact, out of all the fan theories floating around out there, this one seems like one of the least far-fetched and most reasonable. But could it be possible that Doctor Strange was wrong? He doesn't make a habit out of it or anything, but he's still a fallible character, and there could be a very real and important reason which explains how he could have made such a huge error. I've made a terrible mistake. Doctor Strange said he only saw one future in which he and his friends triumphed, but this doesn't mean it was the only one which exists. There could be a future featuring the defeat of Thanos, which Strange can't see, and for one very important reason. To explain why, let's take a look back at arguably the most impactful scene of Doctor Strange. The Ancient One is unimaginably old and wise, and it's revealed she has been drawing power from the Dark Dimension in order to augment her already considerable powers. During the battle, she's gravely wounded and takes on an astral form in order to draw out the inevitable and spend some more time existing before she passes away. While she and Strange have one last chat, she reveals she has used her powers in conjunction with the Time Stone in order to look into the future. But the catch is that, apparently, even the Sorcerer Supreme has limits as to what they can accomplish with all of the magic in the world, plus the help of an Infinity Stone. Despite many attempts, the Ancient One has been unable to look past the moment of her own death. This seems like a reasonable rule, and as she's predicted, the Ancient One perishes soon after revealing this information. We have no reason to believe this rule wouldn't also apply to Doctor Strange and his excursions into the MCU's future. If we take this into consideration, we see there could be tons of possible futures Doctor Strange was simply unable to see. Most fans assume that Doctor Strange will survive, and there's good reason for this. Marvel movies have a long history of making you think a character has passed away only for them to pop up again later. At this point, it's hard to take on any screen death seriously, especially for major characters. In addition to all this, Doctor Strange has only had a single standalone movie, which performed very well at the box office. If he was to be killed off pretty much as soon as he entered the MCU, it would be a really big deal. Many fans believe someone we love won't survive Endgame and point to Avengers veterans Tony Stark and Steve Rogers as possible candidates for retirement. One frequent criticism of Doctor Strange's character is that he's far too like Tony Stark. Some believe that this may be a clue he'll be there to fill in Tony's role in the MCU after his death. But could it be possible that Doctor Strange may be the one we end up saying goodbye to?
Why would you do that? We're in the Endgame now.
If Doctor Strange thought his decimation was going to be permanent, he surely wouldn't have used the word "we" when speaking to Tony. It's clear Doctor Strange believes he's going to be coming back, or through some sort of time manipulation, Thanos' work will somehow become undone. However, if Doctor Strange's glances into the future follow the same rules as the Ancient One, it's entirely possible there are many potential victorious outcomes which he can't see because they were fatal to him. Maybe Tony Stark isn't the only hope of saving half of all life in the universe. Maybe he's just the only hope of saving Doctor Strange specifically. Get where we're coming from here? Now, we aren't trying to insinuate that Doctor Strange is acting with any sort of selfishness here. It's not as though he gave Thanos the Time Stone because he thought it was the only way to save himself, or at least we sincerely hope not. That would be pretty selfish even by his standards. Rather, it's that he literally could see only one possible outcome where not only does Thanos lose, but Strange somehow survives. So does this mean Strange's safety is guaranteed? Well, to put it bluntly, no. That would require everything going exactly to his plan, and the huge glaring issue with that is nobody even knows what his plan is. Strange faded into non-existence before he could give anyone the details, which is why we're all just giving it our best guesses at this point. And even if he did manage to convey what he saw to anyone else before he passed on, there's only the slightest of possibilities things would turn out exactly the way he intended them. Luck hasn't exactly been our hero's strongest suit so far, and while we wish them the best, it makes sense to prepare for the worst. But that doesn't mean everyone's doomed. It's possible we could lose Doctor Strange, but be able to save most other people. Sure, it would be sad, but it's clear that everyone isn't going to make it past the Endgame. It's also possible that Thanos himself may be able to make whatever plan Doctor Strange envisioned fall apart. Don't forget, he now has the Time Stone and the ability to use it. We already saw him using the Time Stone specifically on its own when he turned back time in order to get the Mind Stone from Vision. It's clear Thanos knows what he's doing, even if he decided to take a break from conquering and try his hand at farming. Just because Thanos is down, it would be foolish to count him out at this point, but just think about everything he went through in order to assure his victory at the end of Infinity War. He watched his loyal Black Order get wiped out, and he sacrificed his beloved Gamora. At the end of the movie, Thanos himself admits his goal cost him absolutely everything. Just consider how determined he would be in order to make sure his hard work doesn't become undone. If our heroes are able to undo the decimation, this would make all of his sacrifices completely pointless. Plus, it would make things even more awkward when it comes to hanging out with Gamora, and you thought your family holidays were tense. Yikes. Thanos has the Time Stone and knows how to use it, so there's no reason to believe he wouldn't have access to the same visions as Doctor Strange. If Thanos knows about the one future in which the heroes triumph and Doctor Strange lives, it seems as though it would be really easy for him to prevent it from happening. Therefore, if our heroes are really going to have a chance, they're going to have to do something else, and Doctor Strange may not be able to survive whatever happens. But don't count him out just yet. We think there's a pretty good chance Thanos hasn't bothered to check out the future and see how he could ensure his victory. In the comic books, Thanos is ultimately defeated by his own hubris. Once he feels his victory is secured, he neglects the Infinity Gauntlet, which allows Nebula to steal it and use it for her own purposes. Even if we aren't looking to the comics for hints, just think about the sort of person, or titan, Thanos is. He could have easily wished for twice as many resources in the universe, but he didn't. He may have made up this strange quasi-moral reasoning in the movie version, but even the Russo brothers admit he's not an altruist. He's a megalomaniac. At this point, Thanos most likely believes he's won and our heroes have no chance of defeating him. Why would he sit around and bother to go through millions upon millions of futures to see if there's 1 in 14 million chance our heroes could ever undo what he did? It's something which probably seems impossible to him at this point. We're guessing there are multiple possibilities for how Thanos can be defeated, and that Doctor Strange couldn't see all of them no matter how hard he tried. If he's unable to see past the point of his own demise, then what did he see when he looked through those 14 million futures? It seems as though we're just gonna have to wait until Avengers Endgame to find out. So we know you might not have the Eye of Agamotto, but what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Doctor Strange is going to make it? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Then click on the subscribe button for more MCU videos from CBR. You know you wanna. Thanks for watching.